Hi, my name is Jazz, and I am the DM on the Natural One YouTube and Twitch channels. This is a little series that I kind of want to start to kind of bring you guys along on the journey of becoming a DM and getting good at it. So I wanted to do something that kind of like a lot of DMs have to do, which is encounter creations, but with a twist. See, a lot of the time, I run into a situation where my players do something that I'm not expecting, and I need to come up with an encounter on the fly. So, we're going to kind of do that same type of concept here. So, what I've got is I've got the monster manual pulled up, just a PDF version, just because so it's easier to see, and I've got a random number generated. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate, randomly, a creature, and we're going to base an encounter around that. I think it should be fun. Thanks for coming along with me, and I hope you enjoy. 267. So that is the page that we're going to go to. Let's type on in here 267. Enter. Oh, fun. Good place to start. Lovely. This is actually great. Cool. So we're starting off with a salamander. So this is a CR5 creature. So not too difficult. 90 hit points. So we're probably going to have a few of these. But immediately what I'm thinking in my head with this creature is something with fire, maybe a volcano, like a lava lake or something like that. Just something cool along those lines. Just from the way that the design is. Just a lot of ideas you can get just from the design, and just looking at the creature. So it is an elemental, natural evil, pretty typical. AC of 15, hit points around 90. You can roll it or you can take that one. Speed 30, not too bad. Strength, all that stuff. So it is vulnerable to cold damage. So that's something to keep in mind. So when we're building its lair or the hideout or wherever we're going to put them, you want to make it in a more hot environment because they are vulnerable to cold. Just kind of always taking every bit of the character sheet and trying to put it into that story that you're building up, because that's what we're trying to do. We're not just building an encounter for them to just run in, fight, kill, and leave. We're trying to build something meaningful, and something that gives more life to the encounter and actually makes them care about it. So, resistances, they're resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. Not slashing and non-magical weapons. That's important. So basically, any barbarian or fighter is going to have a hard time doing damage, unless they have a +1 or they have some effect applied to their weapon. But CR5, depending on how many of them are, it's probably going to be a lower level party. So, that's something to consider. Languages, Ignan, not a common one, so your party probably won't understand them. Dark vision, that's important. Dark vision means that we can put them in a low-lit, dim area, or completely dark, and they can still see, and they can attack your party if they aren't able to see, and that can really throw them off, especially because if they walk into a dark room and none of them have dark vision or none of them have lights up or anything like that, then they can ambush them, and you can usually get off a lot of damage and really scare your party really quickly right off the bat. So another thing to take into consideration. So, now let's have a look at some of their abilities. So, the heated body. So, a creature that touches a salamander or hits it with a melee attack while within 5 feet takes 7 or 2d6 fire damage. It's important. So, probably not going to want too many of them so we don't overwhelm the party, especially if they're taking damage every time they do melee. Also, heated weapon. Any metal weapon that the salamander wields deals an extra 1d6 fire damage on a hit. So, they do have a spear. They come with a spear, so that's available. And then multi-attack. The salamander makes 2 attacks, one with its spear and one with its tail. Okay. So, with all that with kind of all that in mind and understanding now we can kind of really start to think about the encounter. So, we're going to head over to a blank document, and we're just going to start kind of brainstorming, you know? So, I'm thinking hot area, possibly lava pit, or a volcano. If we're talking story-wise, this could be say they're guardians guarding a what can we do? Guarding a key. Why not? Guarding a key to we'll stick with key. So guarding a key to trying to think on the spot here. It's really hard. It takes some getting used to. I'm not really good at it, which is kind of why I wanted to start this, so I can kind of build those skills and you can come along on the journey with me. Key to some magical item. Just we can get there eventually. Some magical item. So we can make it an environment where say they either take damage after a certain amount of time being within, or they get a level of exhaustion after being a certain level within. So there's different ways that you can play that off if you really want to hinder your players, or if you want to kind of just give them that bit of nudge saying like, hey, this is going to hurt you, or you give them that level of exhaustion and then they freak out. If you've never given a player a level of exhaustion without like them knowing that it's going to happen, it scares them so much, and it's really fun. It's really fun as a DM to kind of watch them go through those emotions of like them just walking through an area, and then you're like, oh yeah, you have a level of exhaustion now, and they're like, what happened? It's a really fun experience actually. So yeah, let's go with they take 2d10 fire damage every 30 seconds. Why not? 30 seconds, 5 rounds, unless they are resistant to fire damage, which some creatures are. Now we got to think of how many there are going to be, and now we can also go on to maps. So, Incarnate, not sponsored by any means, but I fucking love them. So we're going to create a new map, just a standard landscape map. Why not? And we're going to start building these guys' lair, or their base per se. So first off, immediately I am thinking of colors wise. This needs to be hot. So we're going to select all of the textures, and we're going to come on over and grab ourselves some lava. I think is a good place to start. So we have different types of lava. So we have this hot rock type thing, which I think is a great texture that we can start with. We're going to increase the size of it just so that we can get everything up and going here. I'm also realizing something that's probably going to be an issue. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Just a note for Incarnate, or any kind of like online 3D software. You want to make sure that if you're using Google Chrome, that you've gone into your settings and you've turned on hardware acceleration. I didn't have it on there, so it was lagging out. But now it runs much smoother. So we've got our lava base here. On top of this, so we could either build it in a dungeon style, where we start building walls, or not. I'm going to go with not. No, you know what? I take that back. I am going to do that. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to get our rough edge tool, because I like it. And we're just going to start kind of like building like a bit of a outer edge. We have plenty of time to edit this and add an entrance or whatever we want to do in a second. Like, no, this is far from permanent, just something to get started. And then we also want to go back to our paint tool. Sorry, we're on the paint tool, and we're gonna find a nice darkish black stone or dirt type texture. So we're back. I decided to go with a nice dark black just because I thought it kind of looked nice. And now we're going to look at our entrance. So typically I usually like to put my entrances just at the bottom. Nothing too major. This can actually be a quite small room, I think, because it doesn't need to be too big because, you know, nothing too fancy here. But what I also really like to do, especially with a creature like the Salamander, especially because of the way that it kind of... I have a feeling like this is going to be a creature that slithers around and hides in its area, especially if it hears people coming. And with its dark vision, I feel like it would hide behind a pillar and then sneak around and like whip its tail at somebody. I think that might be cool. So we're going to add a bunch of pillars in this room. So we're going to go back to our tool. We're going to go to add, and we're going to make it about this big, I think. I am actually going to go turn on a grid really quick. That's the wrong thing. Show a grid. This grid's too small, so I did end up picking something that was a bit on the poor side for size-wise. I want that entrance to be about, I want to say, 4 blocks across, so we're just going to go up until it's 4 blocks across, that entrance. 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the 4 creatures can quite comfortably go through there. So we're going to build these about... yeah, about that's probably good. And then with Incarnate, we can literally just tap, and it'll make the pillar. Tap, 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 tap. And we can just kind of make these pillar-type shapes. And then we're going to need to go back in with our paint tools. Alright, wrong one. Hit the wrong button. That's my bad. Come back through and blacken that all up. So, in a quick situation, this is perfectly fine as a battle map. Nothing's wrong with this. You can use this perfectly. You can export this and you can just toss it into Roll20, or you can print it or use it however you want. And this will work perfectly fine for you. No worries. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this because I'm not really too worried about it, but I am just going to spend a bit of time just kind of smoothing out these edges a little bit, making something like that. And then also we need our key or our secret item. So we're going to add another exit that's just going to be a nice little small entrance that goes into the back here. And this is where, after the fight, your players are going to go and they're going to get their items or their gold or whatever it is. So, because you always want to reward them. That's one of the things. You always want to reward your players for anything they do, really. Okay. So, now we need to think what kind of level of party. So, if we're talking my party in my game currently, Legend of Amostifan, you can watch it on the Twitch channel. If we're thinking my game, then I have 5 level 7 characters. So, to deal with this, I think comfortably they could deal with 3. So we're going to say that there's 3 in there. But the best part about being a DM is you can hide things, and you can make stuff up on the spot. So, if your party's all fighting from the front area down here, and you have, like, say, one come out from here, one come out from here, one come out from here, and they wipe them out in a matter of seconds, one can pop out from back here. No problem, no questions asked. One can pop out from back here. One could slither up from behind them. One could come out from the back room. There's so many options and there's so many creative ways that you can deal with it. Even you could have one come up, because they're immune to fire damage, technically they can live in lava. So you could have even, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually kind of wish I had done this. But now that, see, that's kind of the thing. Like, as you go through these steps, you figure stuff out. So I'm going to get a little pool of lava going over here, but I'm going to put it in the background, and I'm just going to put a nice little pool of actual lava right there. So if you run into that situation where your players are just obliterating your characters, more can come in. It's really easy with, like, open things, like in a woods or whatnot. Like, I had my players fight a bunch of spiders in the woods, and I didn't have quite enough ready, so just more came in, you know? That's just how it goes. So if you run into that situation, there's always a way to increase the difficulty on the fly. Or, at the same time, it's never bad to just have your players wipe out an encounter you've built in a matter of turns. Like, not every encounter needs to last forever. So, you kind of just need to play that by ear and by feel. If you feel like they're enjoying just killing everything as fast as possible, sure, it's going to be frustrating for you. But at the end of the day, the game's not really for you. It is for you. You get to enjoy it, you get to build that story, and you get to take your players along for it. But if your players aren't enjoying what they're doing and they're not having fun, there's no point really. So there's always that line as a DM where you kind of have to make that sacrifice of, I'm not gonna win. You don't want to win necessarily. Sometimes killing a party member here and there can feel a little satisfying as a DM. Just knowing that you've accomplished something and you actually were able to beat them. Like, my players have beaten me when I've really tried, and I'm really proud of them, and I get mad. But there's that relief of they're enjoying themselves, and that's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to watch them enjoy the story that I've created for them. So, moving on. So now we have our pit of lava. So we're going to say that there are 3 salamanders hidden behind the first 3 pillars. Is that what I said? 1, 2. So hidden behind the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th pillar. Wrong page. Hidden behind the 2nd, the 2, 3, and 4 pillar. And also, if you need a type of reminder of that, do this. You can actually hide this information from them quite easily on Roll20 if you just use Fog of War. Just hide the pillars from them. No worries. They don't need to see it. This is your information as a DM. So, having them hid behind the 2, 3, and 4 pillar. More will come out of the lava more will come out of the lava if they defeat them in under, I like to set a cap, under 4 rounds. Under 4 rounds of combat. So if on the 3rd round they kill all the salamanders, another one will come out. I always like to have a look at the monster and see if there's anything I want to add to it. Because at the end of the day, the player's handbook, the monster's manual, the D&D guide, all that information is a guide. That's what it is. It's a guide. It's like your script or your music. It's a guide. It's to help you get from one place to another, but you can do whatever you want with the middle. So though we have the Salamander character and it's written perfectly and it's functional and it'll work as is, we can add more to it if we want. So say we want to give it a breath weapon. Doesn't make sense for it, but you always could. Or we could give it like a spit attack, where it spits a glob of lava at it. That's perfectly reasonable. But I think we're going to leave this as is for now. And coming through, going back to our magical item, I've kind of thought about it as I've been thinking here, and I think that we're gonna go something along the lines of. It doesn't need to be an actual weapon. If you want to go into the DMD guide and find a magical weapon, perfectly fine. Or if you want to just come up with something on the spot like this. So we're going to call this a flame spear. Flame spear. And let's just write what the weapon is. Melee or ranged. So it's both. It's going to deal 1d8 piercing damage. Piercing damage. And 1d8 fire damage. And it is going to be magical. And the range on it is going to be, we'll say, similar to a spear. What's the range on a spear? If you don't have physical papers that just kind of printed out with basic information on like certain rules that you might need, like this guide has a list of weapons just all basic weapons. So I can quickly reference it. So if I just need to quickly know what a spear does, the spear can be thrown for 20 to 60 feet. So we're going to just add that in. 20, 60 feet. Spear also has a light property, does it not? No, it has a versatile property, but we're just going to leave it as is. Yeah. So that's that. So that's the magical weapon that we're going to deal. We are also going to grant them a certain amount of gold. Usually I like to go anywhere between 20 per player to 100 per player. So for this encounter, we're going to say 60. 60 gold per player. So, with all that, that's an encounter that you're perfectly able to run. It's got a start, so they walk in. It's a dark room. I forgot to add that, actually. Dark room, dimly lit from lava pool in back. So, having that, your players are going to walk, so you can explain it kind of in a similar way to this. Your players walk in. They come into a room that is very dark with a small light source off into the back. Looking closer, you see that it is bubbling magma coming from a small corner in the back. You have to peek around large pillars from around the room until eventually you hear a snap as a tail comes in and hits one of your players. That's a good way to start a combat. I always like to start a combat with something sudden, something that happens, something that doesn't give them much time to think, something that always puts them on their feet so that they have to just work and go and go and go, because that's kind of what this game is. I really am not a fan, personally, of encounters that go forever, encounters that start and it feels like half an hour's gone by before the first rounds happened. So 6 seconds worth of in-game time took half an hour. If it's half an hour and it's long, like there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of stuff going on, all this different stuff, that's different. But if it's a half an hour and it feels like nothing actually took place, that's a problem. So you always want to kind of give that sense of urgency to your players to kind of nudge them a little bit more towards actually doing that. So, with all that, there is our start of the battle, our actual battle. We have our creatures, we have what they're going to do, we have their abilities, we have how we're going to get more in if we need, and we have our reward, our storyline intricacy. So that flame spear could be belonging to a certain person who has hired you to get them back, or whatever you want. It's all just something that comes up on the mind. So we have our reward, we have our start, our reward, and our battle. Those are the three main things you need for an encounter, and if you can put a bit of story elements and some plot or just some fun stuff hidden away back there as well, that'll always help you out. So, my name is Jazz, this has been Encounter Creator, and I hope that you learned something, because I know I did.